Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought...
Maybe we were literally just waiting for the countdown.
Oh, sorry.
We never have a good intro to book club. So, thanks to Mary for introing. Book club is back, and if you've been following along for March, we've been reading Naomi Alderman's The Power. And we are going to be discussing it in all its glory, or unglory, I suppose, on what we all kind of thought of it. I selected the book, and I had kind of double meaning for doing so. One, I wanted to read the book, and two, I had to force myself to read the book. And I picked it up last year and just left it on the bookshelf, and then I decided to set it as mandatory reading for my English literature class. So I but to actually read the book. To summarize, The Power is set in a alternate world, like it's set in our world, but an alternate reality or alternate dimension or alternate timeline, whatever you want to use. Essentially, women across the world begin to develop the ability to generate a piece of electricity or a blast of electricity in their bodies and harness it, control it, and ultimately take the power out on their adversaries, namely men. So the book really watches what would happen in a society not too unlike our own, where women are secondary citizens or are regarded as lesser to their male counterparts, and what would happen if the script gets flipped and suddenly the power is in the control of women. And that we watch this series of events unfold through a couple of different perspectives. There are a couple of main protagonists throughout the journey of the text, which takes place over a timeline as such. And each one of them affords a different look on what exactly is happening. The three of the main characters that we see or that we follow are female, and we get one male character, kind of all looking at what happens as the balance of power shifts in the favor of women. Would you guys kind of agree with that summary, or?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing that you can go, they go on an epic journey and they have to bring a ring to a, and there's no, it's not your typical. For me, it was definitely it was unlike a lot of things I've read before, and I have to say, just like cat out of the bag, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now this is my second read of it. The first time I tried to read it was at Christmas, and I couldn't get past the first couple of pages. I didn't take to it at all. And I sat down again and I read the whole thing in a day and I loved it.
Yeah, perhaps that'll be my fate in the future, because I read roughly half of the book and I had a very strong start. It was a fascinating concept, but I just felt like it didn't actually have any kind of a story. It was almost kind of like just describing events that happened. So by the time I got to the halfway through the book, I was just starting to get really, really bored, and couldn't find it in myself to keep going. But I do feel kind of better now that I know that you only had a few pages in you on your first read.
Thanks.
Well, another reason I think that it didn't go well for me is because I read the audiobook instead of the actual book. And the voice actors, a couple of them were just really, really irritating. And a lot of people say that's a good thing whenever you have several different voice actors on a book, that it's a really good thing. And obviously this makes sense because it won so many awards. But one of them was just, it was possibly the most irritating accent ever. And every time it came up, it was like mixed feelings, because she was the voice actor for one of my favorite characters, but then her voice was like nails on a chalkboard. So it was really hard to listen to.
What about the rest of you?
I didn't have that problem. Like at first when I started reading it, I was like, okay, and I could feel that my interest wasn't where it would have been with something else. But then I just kind of persevered, and I ended up polishing it in about a day. like a day consistently, and I really thought it wasn't something I'd read before, and it was kind of jarring in a way, because some of the stuff that happens in it is very it's very heavy.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, and like the parts I tended not to enjoy the most would have been where the author of the story, or the author of the history book, so to speak, was going back and forth talking to his friend, and I just didn't think that was necessary for myself, but I could see why it was in the story.
Yeah, I really didn't enjoy those parts either. It felt really jarring, and actually at the start of the audiobook, because it starts out with him like emailing somebody, I was like, is this the actual author emailing somebody and reading out the email?
Sorry, are you talking about the? Are you guys? Sorry, are you talking about the first couple of pages where you're seeing the kind of the meeting between, or the correspondence between a writer and like an editor of sorts?
Yeah.
I think what that is, that's taking place in the timeline, like after the world's kind of reset itself. So I think what we're looking at is we're actually looking at what's happening, what happens in the world now, where women are in control and a male author is trying to get their work published. So
no, definitely. Like when you get to the end of the book, it shows that this is well after it happens, and it shows like it's like I said, it's like a history book of sorts, because he does go into the history of this whole power struggle, so to speak. But at first, I was just kind of like, I couldn't get it. But then the more I read the story, I understood what was happening there, and then I was like, I see, that's clever.
In the mirror, I don't know if it would have referenced it in the audiobook, but they throughout the actual text, they include a few images of, like, prehistoric carvings, statues, devices and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting, but I couldn't figure out for a while why it made, like, what was the purpose of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it like that, I did have that kind of like, what's with this? Because I thought the power had just emerged, and then obviously we learn when we get to the end, there's a very different outlook on where we're at now versus
what was there,
events in the book. So yeah, that made a lot more sense at the end. But I enjoyed it, but I didn't get it at the start, if that makes sense.
So I guess for me,
now, not to interrupt, but if anyone's listening on Facebook and has any questions, please do post them in the comment section, and we can read them out, and hopefully the guide can answer your questions.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't have the book as well as the audiobook, but it did like describe things like that, like carvings and pictures of women shooting shit out of their hands and stuff like that. So I don't know if that was like actual just describing the carvings, or if that was part of the whole like research element of it with outside of the story. I don't know. It kind of makes a really good point about kind of like it read kind of like history. It kind of read like historical fiction, but not particularly good historical.
But I think that was the point of it, though, wasn't it? Like, it was meant to be this alternate history. This is because because I don't want to get to the end of the book just yet, because there will be spoilers in book club, as there always is. So if you haven't finished the book, then you're going to hear some spoilers. So, but we'll give you fair warning before we get to that point. But I think that's what Alderman was doing with the text overall, because you don't really get attached to any of the characters, or at least I didn't anyway. There are certainly some really tender moments. There's certainly some really personal moments in the book, and there's plenty of emotion. But I don't think, looking at these characters and knowing what we know now by the end, I kind of see them as like that, like historical figures that, I can empathize with them to a little bit, but ultimately they lived in a different time to me, a different place than what I live in right now. So we can share feeling for them, but I don't think we ultimately we can put ourselves in their shoes, because it's in the past or whatever. So for me, I kind of think that's where what Naomi was trying to do with it. Obviously I could be completely wrong, and she could be, you know, cursing my name, but that's kind of where I was at with it.
Well, no, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds like what she probably was trying to do that. I guess I just went into it expecting something different.
Different, okay.
Yeah, different than that.
And what would you guys say were your highlights and lowlights of the whole book? So what's your favorite moment and least favorite moment?
My favorite moment would probably be, geez, actually, interesting.
I know mine is.
What's yours?
When Margaret, I believe the mayor, was Margaret or Margot?
I thought it was Margot.
Yeah,
Margot.
Yeah.
When she loses it on stage during the the debate.
Yes.
And she just completely out of nowhere blindsides her man after he attacks her daughter. And I don't know, for me, there was so much in that scene that I got pulled into it. And I don't know why. I could see, like, this is ridiculous. I could see, like, Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Or I could see Hillary Clinton doing that. I could, you know what I mean? I just, what it must be like, Alderman does a really, really good job at kind of capturing those moments where you're sitting back there, and I'm not a woman. I can't attest to this, and I don't maybe Tendai and Mary are going to have a very different perspective on it, but I could just feel Margot's frustration and her pent up anger, and just that kind of having to bite back and hold back what she was saying and what she wanted to do, and then what it must be like to get that release was just phenomenal. I love that.
Like I completely agree. That was actually one of my favorite. Like, there was a few scenes that I was just like, oh, this is interesting. Like, but that was one of the highlights for me, because I could understand, like, I'm very protective of my family. But when somebody's attacking me, I can be fine, I can be cool-headed, but when it comes to attacking my family, if I was able to literally electric shock people, I probably would react instinctively without realizing it. So I could, like, when the debate was happening, I could feel this. I was getting anxious and agitated. And then when he started talking about her daughter, I was like, oh no, you do not go there. And I could understand why she reacted the way she did. Like, one of my favorite scenes was when the reporter went to, oh my God, I can't even remember where he'd gone. Sorry?
Was it Saudi, when he went to Saudi?
Yes, when he went to Saudi, and he was confronted by the women, and then and then he was like, I'm here as a voice for you. I'm not going to do anything to you.
Yeah.
And then he had to prove himself to them, and how they reacted, like that carefree, that I don't have to be so scared anymore. And when they literally went around freaking melting cars. Oh, I don't know why I was.
Yeah, no, I love that part whenever that woman was explaining that they can't drive in Saudi, and then she used her, like, power to, like,
open up the battery
or something.
Like, melt the batteries.
Really cool.
Another, I suppose, for me, one of the other things, it probably was one of the hardest parts of the book, but I also thought it was probably one of the best parts of the book, was towards the end with Roxy and Tunde in the refugee camp. It was horrifying. It was one of those moments where you just can't stop reading, but you really you don't want
to.
I think I have to say what I loved, and this is what I always find with a book, if the author can really pull me into that world, if the author can really immerse me in that world, then I will, like that, I'll read it in a day. And I got that with The Power. I really got pulled in. So I think it made it really, really hard to read as she kind of paints that picture of the violence, the assault, just the pain and torment, and just how depraved the scene really was. It really. And then obviously it's obvious what Alderman is doing. It's not even she doesn't even attempt to disguise it. She's this is literally parallel to what happens in these scenarios in our world, obviously with the roles. And she doesn't make, she's not trying to be, she's trying not to be clever about it. She's not trying to be witty about it. She literally just flips the script. That's all she's done. And it's like, what if the world was written by women? And here we go. If we were to talk about low parts of the book, I found I suppose the kind of the heralding of Mother Eve I found a little kind of dull. I liked the voice she heard. I liked that kind of serpent in the garden kind of thing that Alderman was doing, but I just kind of felt that the character ended up kind of falling very flat for me. Again, until the end, but there in the middle, it was just kind of it just completely went. It was just white noise for a little while. I didn't care about Mother Eve at that stage.
I agree on that. I think that's to do with a widespread issue of characterization in the book, because a lot of the time you'll be really interested in one character and then another one will be just so irritating. I think that's the problem with multiple points of view, is that you get so invested in one and then the next is just so not good and not interesting. And it's okay if it's like they're pretty similar across the board, but when there's like black and white, because I was really interested in Ali's story. But then I wasn't that interested in Margot at all. So every time she came in, I was just like, oh, okay, I have to listen to this, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, I don't know, I mean, I didn't finish the book, so I can't even say now what would happen with Ali or whatever, but she was my favorite. But I do agree, I think the whole Mother Eve thing came out of left field. Like, it was so sudden. 1 minute she's Ali, terrible situation, and the next she's like the next Jesus. It was just it was very jarring.
Whereas
so we have another question.
Oh,
go ahead, Andy.
No. I have quite a long point to make.
Okay,
no, go on. Okay, so the thing with the religious aspect of it, for me, I found that to be one of the most believable parts, because typically when things like this happen, people like to look to somebody. Some people like to see concrete evidence. Some people believe so devoutly in faith. And I think this was because it happens all the time. It happens it's still going on today, that people will never question faith. They'll believe in the slightest whisper of a miracle. They'll be like, oh, that was definitely a miracle. I saw it. And then it'll just ripple from there. So the fact that Ali started where she started, such a horrible background for her to become this revered prophet, so to speak. I thought it was total full freaking circle. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, because nobody would have, she played it so well. She played the long game very, very well. And the way she toyed with people and the way she used her abilities to do so and keep rising through the ranks was amazing. And you could see that straight away, just by she started, like you said, she started off as pretty much a nobody, but then all her little actions, she started having more and more people started noticing her, until all of a sudden she was the head honcho, and that was it. The ball was well and truly rolling. And there's so many fake prophets all over the world currently. And I'm not bashing religions, but there are people who will literally exploit other people's faith to get what they want. Yeah. And for her, I don't think she was trying to necessarily exploit the faith. She was trying to, I think subconsciously she was trying to build a world where what happened to her before she became Mother Eve wouldn't happen to a girl again.
Right, yeah.
And then she ended up being the person who she was trying to avoid.
That's so interesting, because I was wondering about that whole thing, because I wasn't sure if the voice in her head was is she mentally ill, or is that some kind of consequence for the trauma that she went through? Obviously I didn't finish it, and I kind of I really want to, because I need to find out what happens to Ali. But I wasn't sure about that, about whether that was, that didn't come clear for me. Did all girls with the power, did they all have that voice? Did I miss something?
No, not all the girls had the voice, but you see, some people, when it comes to having power, it happens all the time. a lot of religious peoples would say that, oh, I heard someone speaking to me, somebody guiding me. And some people in their day-to-day life would say, yeah, you know, I had a guardian angel telling me what to do, and look where I ended up. I believe that she needed to be able to separate who she was from who she needed to be, and that voice did that for her.
One thing
I think the voice was one and the same, but that voice was where she was going to be going. But where she had started, she didn't from how she was described initially, she didn't really seem to care. But then when she started noticing these things, that's when the voice started making itself more and more heard.
So well, actually, now that I think about it, because I think in the book it did say that the voice first came to her when
she felt the power for the first time.
No, when the man who had taken her in, the couple, when the man had first started
assaulting her, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it was a result of like trauma. Or maybe it is in her own head. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think it might have been a result of trauma, and then it evolved into something else, because Roxy didn't have that voice, you know. Yeah. But then again, we don't know. It might have been very select because she could do things that not everybody else could. She could work on such a tiny scope, such a tiny level, and whereas the likes of Roxy was literally go hard or go home.
Yeah.
See, I kind of think that's interesting, Mary, because you were sorry, Adam. I know you have another question, but just when you were sitting there, like, oh, the voice, you know, it must be, you know, it must have come from trauma or something. Like, too often, you know, that's a lot of the female characters. That's their purpose. So bad stuff happens to them, therefore they get their power.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for Ali, for Mother Eve, I kind of agree with Tendai. I think it's a voice that we all have, and it's just when we feel like we've got that power or that confidence, we can shoot. That's where we pull it from. We pull it from that guiding voice, because and you'll see when you come to finish the book, she's not the only one that the voice comes to. And like the other character, there is no real sense of trauma there. In fact, it's a woman who's been in control for quite some time now and has been listening to a voice, but kind of starts to hear this other voice a lot more clearly. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She approaches the pinnacle of power. So I don't know. I don't think it was mental illness. I don't think it's a coping mechanism. I think for Ali to be Mother Eve, I think it's her own voice she's channeling or she's listening to for the first time, and I think it's that same voice that we all have that occasionally we kind of talk to because we need it to tell us what to do.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think essentially it's just that greater inner voice.
Yes,
I get you. I suppose if all the characters. I mean, obviously, if all the characters, but judging by this logic, they would all have an inner voice, but we're only hearing Ali's. And that was probably a good choice to make if that is what she meant, because if every character was talking to their inner voice, then it would just be confusing. Yeah. Okay. I get where you're coming from. Adam, you had another question?
I do. So the book has a lot of themes, and what theme do you think is the most powerful throughout it, and how do you think it reflects on society nowadays and reflects on life at the minute?
Well, the thing with how I think it affects society nowadays is because it's such a there's a lot that goes on, but the main thing is it literally shows the how do you say it? Oh my god! It literally shows how sorry. It literally shows how power is viewed at the moment, and how it's tipped in a certain balance, so to speak. And if it was literally flip-flopped in a short amount of time, that, you know, there would be nothing soft, nothing gentle about it, that people would be angry, and rightly so. And then people would be the people on the receiving end of that power would be would be dealing with quite a lot of danger and harm. And that's how it is for a lot of women who aren't in a position of power at the moment, that they're the ones who are in danger of being, you know, they're the ones who can't go anywhere without having male companions with them, male relatives with them. You know, they're the ones who can't thrive. You know, they're getting constantly being overlooked for, you know, being emotional. Like at the end of the book, like, spoiler, at the end of the book, they actually talk about how men are so nurturing and caring, and how that if men were in charge, this wouldn't be happening, that none of this war would be happening, none of the violence. And you're like, oh my God. So the fact that if it happened as quickly as it was described in the book, I could understand, because there's a lot of angry people who are angry at injustice, who would think, yes, let's take it back right now. And I think that is very much the state of the world at the moment, that there's people who are angry waiting by the sidelines, waiting for something like this to happen.
I think it's interesting because it confronts that idea of, you know, I think we all have that thing of, oh, if women were in charge, war wouldn't happen. If women were in charge, everything would be handy dandy and everyone would be best friends. I think that's why, like, it's really interesting to see in this book that I think the author's view is that, you know, men with power aren't, you know, men with power are bad, but also women with power can be bad too. You know, it's not that men are bad and women are good. It's that power can corrupt anyone.
Yeah, regardless.
Yeah,
that's what she's getting at. For me, that's the theme that she kind of gets at, is that there is no such thing like a world where one person or one group of people have power. It doesn't make a difference whether it's men or women, homosexual or heterosexual, black or white, whatever it is, where you have an imbalance of power. She gets to, because she mentions this in it, that she kind of talks about, oh, men had the physical strength. Well, now women have this sort of lack of a better word, electrical strength. So I think what she's kind of telling us is that we're looking at a society or world where if you have one in control over the other, or one more powerful than the other, then we're kind of doomed. And really, if you take that lesson and you apply it to what, you know, to our reality, our world, well, women can be as physically strong. Women are as physically strong as men. I'm pretty sure Tendai and Mary could both single-handedly kick my ass. That's you know, that's the nature of it. So this, if we were to take kind of the central theme of that, you know, that you have to find a balance here, then that's what she's telling us. That's if we were to take any lesson from the book, it's that we have to find the real balance here. There is actually no difference, and I think the clearest part of that is kind of towards the end when we see Tunde and Roxy together. They're both battered, they're both bruised, they're both broken, they're both missing something, and it's there at their most vulnerable, at their most naked, even, that they realize that, oh, hang on a second, this is like, I need you, you need me, we need each other to get through this, and that's what she's telling us, that we have to rely on each other. It isn't about what our difference are. It's what's so similar about us. And I think ultimately what she's telling us is that there is no real difference between men and women. In the real world, in her world, yeah, it's very much a case of absolute power has corrupted men, and then we see it as it shifts, absolute power corrupts women. So the biggest theme would be that, you know, there has to be balance, because otherwise we're going to end up obviously destroying each other, as we see in the book.
Well, you make some really good points there, but I actually disagree with what you said there about men and women having the same physical strength. I disagree with that. I mean, I know your average man is stronger than your average woman. Like, that's just fact. You know, I know.
Did you say I'm below average?
I guess I did. No, it's true though. I think that's why it was so interesting in the book, is because walking down the street, right? If a man's coming towards you, I think some women, or maybe all women, in their head sometimes will think, okay, if it came to it, chances are, like, on average, a man would be able to subdue me. Just on average, right? And I think that's why it was so interesting in the book, because it was totally flipped, that a man walking down the street, if he sees a woman coming towards him, he knows she has the power to subdue him because she has the power. I think that was why it was so interesting, because it was like literally flipped entirely on its head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that was so interesting about this book as well is that there was another really recent in Marvel icon, basically like concept of the bulletproof black man, Luke Cage, right? And that was such a strong, amazing concept. I mean, a black man who's bulletproof.
Yeah.
Fascinating, right? And so in this, it's the same kind of parallel. It's like a woman who literally, just by even thinking or by touching someone, has the power to subdue them completely, to hurt them, to kill them. You know, it's like that if someone tried to rape a woman, they're not going to get anywhere because they're going to die. Like straight away, once they touch her, that's it, done. It was just, I love those kind of, just those ideas, you know? It's just, it really challenges what's going on in our actual society.
No, I'm looking at this from a very different perspective. So, as you know, as women in the real world, obviously your perspective is going to be very, very different to what to my own. But I will say that I often like I'm some of the same thing kind of goes through my head every now and again, that like am I going to get clocked for being gay here? Is someone going to is this big fella coming down the road going to go, he's gay, and then am I going to get attacked for that? So I can somewhat see where you're coming from, but ultimately I don't know, I guess we can kind of agree to disagree a small bit.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Fun question. So if you were to pick your favorite character and cast someone in a movie version of the book, who would play your favorite character in the book?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Oh,
very interesting. Okay, so Tunde.
Can I just say as well
that,
Sorry, can I just say as well that the characters, I don't remember any of them actually being described, so this should be really interesting.
For me, I'd go with Tunde would be a Nigerian man, so he'd be a black male.
Well, yeah, we know that, but I mean, like, you know, hair colors and shit of everybody in the, you know.
Their physicality, for the most part.
From what I remember, from all the descriptions of him. So first of all, there was the one when he was swimming, and he said, "I know I look good. I'm in good shape," stuff like that. So
his big smile.
Yeah, exactly. So the person I'd cast as Tunde. Have any of you watched Sense8? You know Van Damme.
Yeah.
First,
the second one. Okay.
Second one, because he could easily easily a reporter, I think. And he has that softness in his face that if he was a reporter and you knew you could take him, that he'd want to tell you your truth, that he wouldn't try and twist it, you know?
Yeah, no, I get you. I did imagine him a little bit more handsome than that guy, though.
I don't know. I suppose handsomeness is subjective.
Well,
that's true.
Like, I think he's quite good looking. As in, like, when he smiles, I'm like, oh, look at you, you're so cute. Like the reason why I think women aren't really threatened by him is because he's very gentle in his facial expressions. Sometimes handsomeness can be quite aggressive. Like if somebody's like very, very handsome, you're like, whew. You know, it can be mildly threatening.
Okay, fair enough. I get where you're coming from, yeah. I mean, I kind of imagined him as having a little bit more swagger rather than like super nice guy kind of, but I don't know.
Well, you see, I follow him on Instagram as well.
Oh, okay, here we go.
I've seen him like just socializing and stuff like that, and he definitely has the swagger. So that's why I would have gone for him. Like he's not just Cassius all the time. Like he's funny, he's cheeky, and you know, you're just like, I see you, good sir. So that's probably who.
Declan, have you got castings for your favorite characters?
I think if I was
Michelle Obama.
What?
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama. No, not Michelle Obama. I think I would cast. You guys have seen Battlestar Galactica, right?
Yeah.
Mary McDonnell, the president of the 12 colonies.
Yes, you're so right.
Yeah.
You're so right. Yeah.
I just see it. That's where I kind of went with it in my head. But the other one, this. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with this one or not. But for Ali, for Mother Eve, Zoe Kravitz.
Oh yes, yes, I could totally see that. She's got that feel about her that she can be like, oh, literally, I do not care. But then if you put her in the right stuff, and you can be that angel.
Yep. I don't know. I can kind of see her with that kind of that undercurrent of fury working really, really well. I don't know. It just that's where I'd go with it.
I see it. That's a good choice.
No, I'd say for Ali, Logan Browning would be a good choice. Do you know the or Sam from Dear White People?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. You guys.
I know we're so good at this.
Okay, right, we're just on the site. We're going to quit book club. We're going to become casting agents instead.
That's the dream.
That was a good question.
That was a good question.
So, star ratings, guys. What are you thinking out of 5 stars?
You see,
and where does it sit in line with all the other books we've had so far?
Okay,
like one of your favorites, in the middle.
Like I would actually recommend this book to people who I know don't read very often, because I've had this argument of people with like when they like, oh, if women were in charge, you know, it'd probably be exactly the same. And I've been on the side that's argued that I don't, because of how women have been oppressed. If it was a gradual shift of power, I don't think it would be as aggressive. I think that people would still be able to say, I remember how it was for me. I don't want to be that person. But if it was a case of all of a sudden everybody is shooting lightning bolts out of their hands, people are gonna fry. So, and I kind of see their argument, whereas before I didn't, because I was thinking more a long-term shift, whereas they were thinking, no, if it literally just flip-flopped right now. But we didn't explain that properly. So I'd give the book a pretty high, I'd give it a very high 4. Like there was times where, like at the beginning with the correspondence, where I was just like, and trying to get into the flow of it took a bit longer than some of the last few books that I've read. So yeah, no, I'd give it probably like maybe a 4.8.
Jesus, that is high.
Well, oh wait, it's out of 5, yeah?
It is, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was just like 4.85. No,
I think that's your highest rating so far, though.
No, I gave Binti a 5 out of 5.
Oh, okay, fair enough. There we go.
But no, okay.
Mary and Declan.
Yeah, I'm going to give this like 4.5, 4.8 as well.
That's very high as well.
I love this. This is probably like one of my favorite books. My favorite book from book club so far has been A Cat of Warrior, the one that Tendai selected for us last year. I absolutely drank that book, and I did the same thing with this. So for me, they're up there. I thoroughly enjoyed both of these. So yeah, they're neck and neck for me.
I think because I didn't finish it, because I DNF'd, I don't think it's right for me to give it a rating, but I am inspired by Declan's first terrible attempt to read it and then loving it several months later. So I think I'll probably just finish it myself. But I will say that I did like it more than Beasts Made of Night. I mean, Beasts Made of Night, I quit after 5 chapters, so that really says it all. Yeah, it had really interesting themes. It was obviously really well written. It really slowed really badly during the middle half, which is why I give up. But I guess, I mean, hearing these guys talk about it, I think I'll just plow ahead and finish it. So
persevere.
Yay. So next month's book of the month is Children of Blood and Bone. So I hope everyone's excited about that.
I'm excited. Cannot wait to read it. And top tip for anybody, if you're strapped for cash or you don't have money to be spending on yet more books for your TBR, you can just rent Children of Blood and Bone from the library. So pioneers for libraries here, people.
Woo! No, I actually can't wait to discuss this book. I want to talk about it for so long now.
And you highly recommend it, don't you?
I take that. I'm assuming she's But anyway, I think that's all that we have. So 2 5-star ratings, almost 5-star ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Go read it. If you haven't read it, go read it.
Yes, 100%.
Perfect. So that seems to be a wrap for this month's book club. Anyone got any final words?
No, I'm good. I think I'll spend the rest of the night reading it, so.
Sure.
Convinced.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Till next month.
See you next time.
Bye.
Oh, wait, I'm in control of this. I gotta hang up.
Yeah, you are. I was wondering.